Okay, that's recording now. We've got a question and answer session at the end of the towards the end of the session, so please hold on to your questions until that part, and then we'll address those then. If you've got any if you need any support during the session, let one of us know in the chat. And also can ask if you can please keep muted during the presentation and while other people are talking as well during the Q&A, so that it's quite clear when people are talking. And unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, our interpreter that was booked for tonight is struggling to log in because she's got some internet problems. I will let you know if she manages successfully to log in. If you're not sure about how to put your captions on, let us know in the chat, or yeah, just let one of us know. The reason why we're here is to introduce you to the funding available through People Power Places, which was previously known as community assemblies, and then to give you some tips on how to do meaningful consultation. And as a result, all the projects that you are submitting applications for will make a difference in you. And the schedule, we're just doing the welcome and housekeeping bits, just done that. And then I'm going to just run through some slides, just explaining for those of you who've not been to one of these sessions before, just briefly about what People Power Places is. And then around 6:20, we'll be talking about what you need to do about consultation, what you need to know about consultations, and run through some examples straight after that. And then we'll open up questions around 6:45. And then at 7:20, we'll talk about the next steps and how to apply, and hope to finish at 7:30. So what is People Power Places? People Power Places, like I mentioned, is previously known as community assemblies, and it gives Newham residents the chance to make a positive change in their local area. So we're one of the largest participatory budgeting program in the country. Newham is divided into 8 community neighbourhoods. Each neighbourhood has been allocated £200,000 to fund local projects done by local people in the next 2 years. So anyone who lives, works, or learns in that neighbourhood can take part. This money comes from a pot of a fund called a Neighbourhood Community Infrastructure Levy, which is short for NCIL. And NCIL is acquired by when developers put up these buildings in Newham. So, for example, a block of flats or office blocks, and they are obliged to give back a bit of money, put aside a little bit of money to give to the council to put towards strategic neighbourhood infrastructure. So, and this is where the money is coming from. It's not coming from the core budget where council tax is collected and all that kind of stuff. So this is a separate pot. So, and what are the criteria? So along with this pot comes a set of criteria. So these are projects that help with the development and growth of the area, projects that improve public spaces and infrastructure, and projects that improve the health and happiness of the community. This is a step-by-step guide on the cycle of People Power Places program. So we did the priority setting in May. So each 8 neighbourhood independently set their local priorities by residents coming together and voting on what they thought was the most important things to address in their local neighbourhood. So that was done in May. We're now sort of in step 2. We finished the solutions event last week, and there's some great ideas that have come up, and now the applications are open. They were open since the 20th of June, and they're closing on the 3rd of September. So if you're a resident, you can apply for up to £5,000. If you are volunteer community faith sector group, you can apply for up to £20,000. And then the 4th step is the voting stage, where residents get to vote for their favourite projects that they'd like to see in their local neighbourhood. And step 5 is the delivery stage, where all the successful projects that were voted on and organisations and residents will, with support of Newham Council, that is the delivery stage where we actually get going with the projects. And then step 6 is when we celebrate our achievements. And then what I just described in the steps is shown in this diagram as a cycle. So we are up on the top where the application is open from the 20th to 3rd of September. We go to vote between sort of roughly October, November time. We announced the successful projects towards the end of November, and then hopefully get everyone going. All the successful projects start January and all the way up until December 2024. There'll be a series of support clinics and project clinics in between, just like one we're having today. And then from January to March 2025, there's an evaluation stage, and we all come together again right at the end of the 2-year cycle during May and June 2025 to celebrate all of our achievements. So this is the 8 neighbourhoods that I was talking about earlier on. The black lines show the borders of where the neighbourhoods are, and within the neighbourhood itself there are wards as well. So typically there's about 3 wards in each of the neighbourhood. So if you're not sure which neighbourhood you want to apply for, because of it all depends on where you intend to deliver your project as well. So if you're not sure, just let one of us know. We can try and find out exactly which neighbourhood, because each neighbourhood has its own team who will be supporting you throughout the whole process. So it's important that we link you up with the right team from the beginning. So who can apply? So as I mentioned, anyone who lives, works or learns in the community neighbourhood can apply, and voluntary community and faith sector organisations as well can apply. So no experience needed and no knowledge needed. You cannot apply though if you are part of the People Power Places working group anywhere in Newham. You can watch the support clinic recordings on Newham Co-Create to find out more. And we highly encourage new residents to apply to bring fresh project ideas. So how to apply? That's the link there. So I think that's gone in the chat as well. You'll get pretty much all the information on that one link. So, and there's also the recordings on there as well. So that if you've missed any support clinics, there are recordings on there. We'll try and upload as soon as we can once the clinics are finished. It doesn't need to go to our IT department to convert to a YouTube link. So we'll, this clinic will be uploaded as soon as possible as well. You'll also find the application forms, which is the important thing, on that page as well. So there's 2 types of application forms. There's the online version and there's the print ready version. The libraries can also give you a printer if you don't have a printer. You can return it by email if you've downloaded the online application form to your community neighbourhood team, or you can hand it in, or you can post it to your local Newham library. You've got until the 3rd of September to apply, but it's best you do this early. And there is a reason why you need to put in an application form early, is because neighbourhood teams have got the opportunity to look through your application forms early and then come back to you to say, your application might stand a better chance if you expand on this or you add more detail there. So it is really important to give your application the best opportunity to get that in as early as possible. There's already been some applications that have been submitted, and neighbourhood teams are already looking at these applications and already communicating with the applicants to kind of make sure they submit the best application they can. So after the deadline, the working group and the council departments will process your application, and successful applications will be put through to the voting phase of the cycle for residents to choose their favourite project.
Okay, I will take it from there. So tonight we want to specifically focus on how to do a consultation. So first things first, what is a consultation? So consultation is a process to inform and ask the opinions of people who would be impacted by a project proposal. So typically, if you put in a project proposal as part of People Powered Places, you will need to do a consultation in some cases, and we'll go over that in a minute, in order to make sure that your project doesn't negatively impact people in your area. Examples of context when consultation is done. So for example, we do consultation as a council when residents before a road closure. So if someone wants to temporarily close a road, you need to have a consultation. Another example that you might have heard of or might have been involved in is the local plan. So there was a consultation earlier this year in January to consult with new residents about the local plan. And other examples might be consulting with residents on changes on their housing estate. So if you live in a housing estate, you might have been consulted before about some changes in your housing estate. Now, why would you do a consultation when you apply for funding? So the main purpose of a consultation is to make sure that a project doesn't negatively impact the people who will be affected by it. And the reason for that is, for example, you might think you have a brilliant idea, you're going to close the road to have children play on your street. But if you haven't consulted with residents who use that road, they might not agree with it, or they might have difficulties with the project, and that might kind of like impact your project as well. So the main benefits of doing a consultation, there's benefits for the people who would be affected by it. So residents will know and understand your project better if you do a consultation. The residents will have an opportunity to let you know if there's any issues with that might result from your projects that you might have not thought of. So for example, you think you might have a great idea of like adding a planter on someone else's housing estate, and then maybe the residents of that estate don't think they really want a planter because they have another idea, for example. So doing a consultation will help residents to let you know if there's any issues that might come out of your idea, of your project proposal. There's benefits for your project as well for running a consultation. So more residents can get involved if they know about your idea as early as possible. So you can get support on your project idea, the more kind of like neighbors and residents around you involve. And then the other one is that you reduce the likelihood of other residents opposing your project, which can happen once you start delivering it. And if you have been successful in the voting process, and then later down the line, maybe some people might oppose it because they might not have been aware of your project idea. So these are the main reasons of why you would why it's important to do a consultation as part of applying for funding. Now, you might think, depending on my project idea, do I have to do a consultation? Do I need to do one? So this is a bit of a guide on how do I know if I need to do a consultation? So not all projects will need to do a consultation. There are some projects that definitely need to do a consultation. So the main kind of projects that will definitely need to do a consultation is all projects which are set to happen in public space will need to do a consultation. So public spaces will be things like streets, roads, parks, sideways. So anything that's not a sort of private space that belongs to you or someone else. So it can be a space that belongs to the council or that belongs to TfL, for example. The second example is all projects which are set to happen on a housing estate will also need to do a consultation. So in that case, you will need to do a consultation with the estate residents to make sure that they're on board as well. this does not mean that you only need to talk to residents. You will also need to talk with Parks and Highways team, which we've already talked about in our last support clinic on how to cost a project. So you will need to also liaise with the teams in Neum Council responsible for parks and streets. And then you also might need to speak to housing services if you plan to do your project on a housing estate. But these are definitely projects. If your project is set to happen in any of these areas, then you will need to do a consultation. All of the projects, it completely depends on like considering the following aspects. So who will be impacted by my project? So if you do sessions, I don't know, like depending like which parts of the population that you might want to kind of do sessions with, maybe you want to consult with them to make sure that your project idea is supported by that population. So it really depends on like what exactly your project idea is. So just think about who is going to be impacted by my project, and of the people who will be impacted by my project, are they aware of my idea and are they on board with my idea? So these are the kind of like key questions that you need to ask yourself before you need to kind of like decide whether you want to do a consultation or not. In any case, there is a part in the project application where you need to fill out what you have done or the reasons why you might not have done a consultation. And we'll come to that in a minute as well. Some examples. So example one is the example of a play street on your street. So let's say you're a resident and you want to close your street sometime in June next year to do a play street. So in that case, it's a public space because it's your street. So you will need to do a consultation in that case. And this is kind of like thinking about the positive impacts of a consultation in that scenario. So the good things about doing a consultation about a play street in that scenario is that your neighbors can help you organize it. So the earlier you kind of put forward your idea to your neighbors, the more people can be engaged and kind of like participate in organizing the play street. Your neighbors are more likely to attend as well the earlier they know about it. So that's also a positive impact of doing a consultation. And then there are risks also if you don't do a consultation. So this can be your neighbors don't understand at all the concept of a play street. So they might not be on board with it. So it's really, as part of the consultation, thinking about how am I going to convince my neighbors possibly that doing a play street in my street will help, will help children play outside, have fun, create like connections in the community, for example, but you might need to kind of explain that to people for them to understand. Your neighbors may have planned to drive that day, or they might have, plans to go on holiday, or like there may be carers on your street that need to use their car to support a member of the community. So it's really important that obviously they know in advance in order to make plans and like have different mitigation plans in order to for that play street to happen in the best way possible. So that's something to consider, where your neighbors might be upset if you haven't told them in advance. And then your neighbors might oppose the play street, which does happen and has happened in the past, where some neighbors might not have been consulted, and then they basically weren't happy about the fact that they hadn't been told, and then they would oppose the play street, make complaints to the council as well, which is unfortunately things that happen. So that's why it's really important to do a consultation in those scenarios. Second example, so you want to do a weekly workshop at your local library for children. So in that scenario, there's quite a low likelihood of affecting other residents. You're in a library which is not exactly a private space, but it's not in a street or a park. So it's a Neum Council space. So the team at Neum Council can support you accessing that particular space. But it is still a public building. So you will need to check with the library team, if there are any parts of your projects that could affect other residents negatively as well. And depending on what the library team thinks, you might still have to do a consultation. And in that case, they will let you know who you might need to consult and why and how to do it as well. So these are kind of two examples of like when you can see that it's really, really important to do a consultation, and one scenario where it might not be needed, but you would need to kind of check with the library team. Now, how to do a consultation. So there's many different ways of doing a consultation, depending, it might also depend on what your project is. But there's like 4 different examples of really good ways of doing a consultation. Number 1, possibly the most efficient, is door knocking. Just go and talk to your neighbors. So directly going to speak to your neighbors about your project is often the best way to convince them. Introducing yourself as their neighbor, talk through your project, your idea, and address any of the issues that they might have directly with them. Surveys or questionnaires are also a really good way of getting people's opinions. You can get that feedback, you can print it to post it to to your neighbors as well. So if you don't feel like, not everyone might be comfortable with door knocking, and that's also fine. If you prefer to kind of like post something in your neighbors' letterboxes instead, and you can also kind of put your contact details on there if people have questions for you. You can either print it, or you can also make it digital as well, for people to fill out your survey or your questionnaire. And the community neighborhood teams can support you with finding the right way of doing your questionnaire as well. Just remember that not everyone has access to digital tools. So if you do a kind of digital survey, you might want to kind of print a few paper ones as well, for people who don't have access to digital tools or are not possibly online as well. Flyers and posters, so that's thinking about your communications, but it's also can be a way of proving that you consulted with your neighbors and you've informed them. So it's a good way of like letting know, for example, if you have an event, or if you want to share specific information. And it can be an interactive way of doing it, in the sense of like leaving your feedback. So you might say, you know, we are planning a play street on Saturday, 22nd of July. And if you want to find out more, contact, and you can put your email address, for example. So in that case, you can also kind of print the flyers and give out flyers and posters as well. That's really, for example, that's a really good way of communicating about a road closure, for example. So to make sure that everyone is aware that the road might be closed on that Saturday. And then media and social media is also the best way of communicating things with people. So either your survey or your questionnaire or kind of information that you want to share with people, it increases the numbers that you consult by sharing on media and social media. So with media, same, you can get support with community neighborhood teams to know which media to contact and how to do that. And social media, so you can use your own social media, you can use, you know, hashtags or things like that as well to kind of spread the word as well. WhatsApp groups generally are really good, and Nextdoor as well are really kind of like good tools to be able to, maybe if you have a WhatsApp group on your street, then you might be able to reach out to a lot of your neighbors through that way as well. So these are kind of different ideas about how you might run your consultation. What's really important is you consult the people who are directly affected by the issue. So it's not just about kind of asking your favorite neighbor next door what he thinks about it. It's really about kind of reaching out to as many neighbors as possible and getting a sense of like, right, when I do my project, are people going to get on board with it, or am I going to have people who complain about it or are not happy with it? So just make sure, it's really important that you make sure to kind of reach as many people as possible, and that you reach a diverse community as well. So for example, you know, if you're thinking of like doing something in the park, you might also kind of like start thinking about the children who use the park, not just the adults. So, you know, thinking about diverse views of people who might be impacted by your project. Another really important part is to make sure that you keep evidence of the consultation. So in case later down the line, there's some other residents who make a complaint, for example, then you can prove, well, I've actually consulted residents and they were happy with my proposal. That's really helpful if there's any kind of issues, and hopefully there won't be, because obviously if you've done your consultation really well, it's less likely. But if there's any issue later down the line, or if we need to find out who you consulted with, then just make sure that you keep evidence of it throughout the duration of your project as well. Okay, some examples.
Hello, I hope everybody's still with us. Been very quiet. As Emily's mentioned a few examples, but I'm going to go through the do's and don'ts of consultation. So, for example, let's say you're doing it's a pastry project. The things you could do is you could do the door-to-door knocking on your street, and before applying for a road closure. You can address any concerns from your neighbours at this point, and you can advertise a road closure with posters, flyers in the media and social media, and you can inform your neighbours of what to do if they need to drive on the day. So those are the things that you should do, and the things you shouldn't do is only tell a few of your neighbours and assume the rest of your neighbours will be fine with it. So don't ever assume that. Consider the votes for your project on Neom Co-Create as a consultation as well. So this is why we are always asking people to put your ideas on Neom Co-Create, so residents can see it beforehand and have a gist of what your project's all going to be about. And they also make comments on it. So some of them might put positive, negative comments on it. So consider that as your consultation as well. So you shouldn't consider that as your consultation. So don't just assume that putting your idea on your co-create is a form of consultation. It's not, okay? It needs to be a bit more than that. And don't apply for road closure before doing the consultation. So always make sure you do the consultation before, and then you apply for the road closure, okay? So this is just an example of a pastry project. So yeah, so just to reiterate, putting your idea on Neom Co-Create is not a formal consultation, okay? Thank you. Yes, example 2, if you put in, let's say you're looking at doing putting in a new sports equipment in the park. One thing the few things you should do is hold a consultation, maybe like an event style in the park. So you're engaging with all the park users. Consider your idea is the most relevant for regular use of the park and the community in its diversity, i.e. children. Sorry, my throat's drying up. Take into account uses of the park to see which location would work best, okay? So those are the things you should consider when you're trying to put in new sport in the park. The things you shouldn't do is only ask a few of your neighbours who use the park, okay? And you shouldn't ignore the feedback from other residents. So always consider everybody's feedback when doing a consultation. Consider the vote of your project on Neom Co-Create as a consultation. Again, putting the idea on Neom Co-Create isn't a formal consultation, okay? And you shouldn't only talk to residents. You will also need to be in touch with the parks team. So so you just don't talk to residents, you also need to talk to the parks team, who will be who you might need further permissions for further consultation from as well. So they will, give you the go ahead and stuff like that as well with regards to this particular project. So so yeah. So when you're filling the form, so this is what you will be looking at, and that will be on page 10 of the application form. So these are the things you need to consider. So the things you need to fill in is the tools used to consult, the number of people consulted, who was consulted, and the result of the consultation and any mitigations. That noise is really annoying me. So yeah, so just give examples of what kind of tools you're going to be using. For example, Emily's giving you some examples beforehand. So just mention which one of those you'll be using, how many people you consulted. It was very important as well, and who was consulted. So was it just people on that Place Street Road, or was it a bit wider? Or was it just the people using the park, or was it the people living around the park as well? So make sure you mention everything like that. And the results, of course, very important. So that will, you know, it will back your project up, basically, if you've got lots of positive results and stuff like that. So make sure you consider all of that. You know, we are all here for you if you need any further support. I'm one of the community neighborhood senior officer for Manor Park here, so a lot of my project leads have been coming, and you know, we've been providing the extra support and guidance as well. So please, you know, reach out to your senior officers, your community neighborhood team, if you need any further support, especially with consultations and stuff like that as well. Okay. Was there anything else you want me to talk about, Chris and Emily? Was that it?
That's great. Thanks, Kulsuma.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so just to reiterate on New Co-Create platform, so obviously it is a great way for people to know about it, but a good example would be lots of people in East Ham, let's say, find out about your project, but 0 of your neighbors on your street find out about why you want to close your street to drivers for a play street, for example, to keep that example going. So in that case, for example, you might have a lot of support from residents, which is great, but it might not be enough to kind of for your residents, for your direct neighbors who will be the ones impacted, right? Someone who votes for your project but lives 10 streets away in East Ham won't be the one that will be affected by the road closure. So that's why, as well as obviously it's really important that you get the support from residents, and it is part of getting approval from your project, but it is not enough in those cases for consultation. So yeah, we're going to move on to any questions from you, if any parts were still unclear, or if you have specific questions also about your particular project. It's also the right time to kind of ask questions about whether you should do a consultation in your case, or if you need any support on how to do your consultation.
Just use your raised hand to ask. I think is it N Marcus had a hand raised earlier on, quite early on. So just wondered, N Marcus would like to ask a question. No, we can come back to that. But Dean, you had your hand up?
Yeah. The project I'm putting in as a resident involves youth empowerment and a thing called street art, but that's essentially passive. We won't be going round painting on walls or doing anything active like that. So I assume that we wouldn't need to do a consultation because there's no physical interaction with the public realm. Is that correct?
Yeah, so exactly. So it will really depend. If you're holding your workshops, let's say, in your own organization with young people, and you don't have like interactions with other neighbors that might be impacted by your project, then you're fine. Let's say if your project was actually doing workshops, but then doing a street art in the street, then in that case, you would need to consult with, let's say, if you do like a wall street art somewhere, then you will need to consult with people who are in the area of that wall, for example. But if that's not your case and it's just like weekly session workshops or anything like that, then you'll be fine.
That's great. I've got one question. I need to get the document.
Okay, I see some hands going up.
Yeah, maybe we can take another question in the meantime.
Yeah, and Marcus, do you want to come in?
Hi, yeah, sorry, no, Dean, do you want to take the floor now that you're back?
Yeah, I'll just say, I'd like to just say this to everyone. this is a document that I found online called Newham Council Approach to Street Art Projects. If you have a look round on the Co-Create site and Newham Council's website, there's really a lot of interesting documents and materials out there. So I'd say to anyone, do go onto the website and Newham Co-Create and look around, because I did and I found this. So there's a lot of material Newham Council have put up about different aspects of projects that's really useful.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Dean.
Over to you, Marcus and Marcus. Did you want to come back in with your question? Okay, we'll skip to Sue. Sue, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, yeah, it's just about timescales. Do we have to have completed our consultation before we get the application in, or can it be kind of an ongoing?
So yeah, so I think with that one, it's like you need to do your consultation before putting the application in, just because once your application is in, if it gets voted on and then people are not happy with it, that might cause issues.
Mhm.
Now, with that being said, if you want to continue to consult people and advertise it and print flyers as part of your grant and stuff like that, then for sure, you can continue to do that once you start delivering your project. But you have to have a minimum of consultation before you put your application in. And the only reason for that is obviously if later down the line people oppose it, but it's already been voted for by other residents in Newham, then that poses a question of, you know, it's a difficult situation because some residents in Newham want this project to happen and others don't want it. So that's the reason why you kind of need to do your consultation before and put it as part of your application form.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. We've got Alexis.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, hi, thanks very much. I'm just interested in the way that, if you could clarify to me how the voting system works. In particular, I'm interested in how Stratford works.
Yeah, so voting will happen once. So when you put your project application in, there's a shortlisting phase. So in that case, there's working groups which are made up of residents, local councillors and council officers will make sure that your project application fits the criteria and can be delivered within the timeline and the budget that you've asked for. And then once that's done, it will be either be successful to be put to the voting stage, or it might not be successful at that stage. And in the voting events, then we will have in-person events and online on Newham Co-Create the opportunity to vote for people's favorite projects in their local area.
Sorry, but you said there was a group of, sorry, who's in the group that's making the decision? For
the working group members, yeah. So working group members are, some of them are residents. There's about, I think in Stratford, there might be 17 residents involved. They've been recruited through an application process, which happened in May, I think, or April. I can't remember exactly. It's spring. So they've been recruited in the spring, and they are trained to be able to mark the application in terms of the essential criteria of the program.
And the process of the 17 people from Newham, are they people from Newham? Sorry, are they people from Stratford, not Newham? Sorry, apologies. Yes,
they are all people who live, work, or learn in Stratford specifically, Stratford and West Ham for that neighbourhood.
And does the application process a once in a year process? Is it every year that this panels open up for other people to join?
Yeah, I'm afraid you just missed the chance for 2 years, but so now we have a 2-year cycle. So they are recruited for 2 years at the moment. So the next round of recruitment for working group members would likely be March 2025. If I'm correct, around that time. Yeah.
Okay, so the other question about this group is, in the group profile, do you have like a variety of different types of people, or how have you come to make a decision about who's on the panel. For example, like if you have like a fair broad range of people with different skills, or what type of people are you aware of? How does that process get chosen, or do you do anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, you can find out more about specifically the working group recruitment and how that works on New and Co-Create as well. There's a section of the platform which is specifically about working groups, and I can put the link in the chat if you want to kind of like see a bit more detail about how they are recruited and what the application form look like as well.
No, I think I'm really much more interested in the variety of people that's on it, and what sorts of skills are they do they have.
Yeah.
Because it just might be, in some cases, some projects are, may appear to be chosen by certain groups. So, we just, how do you ensure that the panel is a fair panel and that they have a broad range of skills, or that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Emily, if I can answer that as well. I think the best person to speak to and find out, if you want to find out, the diversity of your working group, is your neighborhood senior officer. So if you're Stratford, then you need to contact your senior officer for Stratford, and they'll be able to give you the names as well of who the working group members are.
Sorry, the senior officer of what for Stratford?
Stratford and West Ham. So this is it'll be CG for Stratford.
Yeah, so each area has a senior officer, and you can contact your senior officer for Stratford and West Ham. They'll be able to give you more information on your working group members.
Okay. And also the final, I know I'm taking a few questions here, but the final bit is, if community members and residents are not happy with the working group, is there a complaints process, an appeals process? How does it work?
To file a complaint against the working group?
Yeah, because every system and process needs to have some sort of accountability, and if people are,
you will be able to, if you're not happy with any of the processes, you can contact that particular neighborhood and put your complaint in, and they'll deal with that locally. I do need to move on because this is specifically about consultations and not working group members. So thank you for your questions, Alexis, and we'll put you in touch with Stratford's community neighbourhood team for any further queries. Who was next to answer questions?
I think Marcus was ready for his question now. He said in the chat.
Yeah. Hi guys. My project is basically capacity building training for teenagers and young adults, and I'm only really going to be having 30 participants because I'm going to keep my classes quite small. And I did a community fun day on Freemasons Road last year around August. And since then, I've had a lot of conversations with youth workers. I plan to deliver my project in Shipment Youth Centre by the time it opens up, hopefully. I've already spoken with them. I've spoken with head teachers and students at Royal Docks Academy. So I've basically spoken to my target audience way before people had places and stuff. And my point being is I basically did consultation there. And my project isn't so super public heavy where I'll probably be needing to put flyers out, because I almost to a T I know who will be involved in my project. So I'm asking, from what I've given you, at least the detail that I've given you, do I need to make some big type of consultation? Because I feel like I've been consulting already to get to this point before people buy places.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot of the work already. What I would advise in your case is putting that as part of your project application form. So just make sure that you kind of write who you've been in touch with, what was the conversation, the result, like the outcome of the conversation, the support that you got from, let's say, head teachers and stuff like that. Where does your project where is it going to happen?
Shipman. So Shipman Youth Zone, they're going to,
Is that rolled out something like that?
yeah, they're in the process of redeveloping. So that's in Prince Regent Lane, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I know when I say, you know, it's almost a bit typical that no one knows what's going on in Custom House. So you heard it here first. Like, yeah, we're getting a youth zone again. And
Okay.
Cool.
it should be open for the time that my project will be delivered. And I've spoken with the, well, they offered for my project to be run there. So that was a form of consultation as well, because they've got young people that they want me to work with.
I think what Emily said before, just keeping the evidence that you've done it. I say, I mean, you've done a lot of the work already. Just keep the evidence. Just make sure you've got evidence.
Plus, if your project's actually in the center, inside the center, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
how do I evidence?
And you're running it in the center, and you've consulted with the people that are going to be managing the center already.
Yeah, and then I'll be coming through in a week, not in a week, but like I'll be coming through, let's say within a month or two, to actually speak to the young people themselves, to like break the project to them softly.
Okay. No, well, I mean, it doesn't sound like that you need to do heavy consultation, because you'll be running it in a enclosed building, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, all you need to evidence is to say you've come to some sort of agreement already with the building managers, and if you've got anything in writing as well, that'd be useful.
I can get that.
Just save all of that stuff. So, but in the meantime, in the application form, you can say, I've already started the conversations and have collected agreements with the building managers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Chris, there's a question in the chat, and then we've got Rosa with her hands up as well. There's a question from Tasha. I plan to invite local youth to a public park, Rainbow Community Garden. Would I consult the local schools and neighbours? I imagine also the parks team and the community garden team. So where is that?
Yeah, that sounds like you've got your kind of stakeholders, like we say in the jargon. But yeah, it sounds like that these are all the people that you might need to consult. So if there's a local youth and you want to be in touch with the local schools, then yeah, start conversations with local schools if that's how you're going to recruit the young people. Public park, obviously consulting with some of the neighbours who are using this park, and the parks team. So with the parks team, before you put your project application in, you don't necessarily need to be in touch directly with them, because we're doing that on our side. So once you put your project application in, there's a feasibility process assessment that's happening with our council services. And if they have any questions or concerns about your project, then they will be in touch with you. So you don't necessarily need, unless you have a specific question, you don't necessarily need to be in touch with them separately before putting in your project application in. But obviously, if you're successful, then you will need to kind of regularly get in touch with them if you're running in the park. Yeah, and obviously if it's the Rainbow Community Garden, then be in touch with the people who run this particular project.
So we're going to, is it Rosa?
Rosa?
Hi, it's Rosé. Thank you. Hi. My question is with regards to the consultation. What happens if you do the consultation and the opinions that you get are kind of divided? What you do? Like you have part of half that are really keen on your idea, but then you have a percentage that is not. What happens then?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And this is part of what we were talking about in the sort of mitigation. So what mitigation is like, for example, if half of the people don't agree with your idea, what are you putting in place to make sure that either you take on board their opinion, or if you can't for whatever reason, or if you have to kind of make a decision based on the majority of the opinions, then what are the actions that you're going to take to make sure that the people who will be affected or don't agree are still kind of like feel listened to, and feel like they had their say in your consultation. So this is about thinking about what are the actions that you're going to take based on the feedback that you've had from your consultation. So for example, if we take back the Play Street idea, if like, let's say most of your neighbors are happy and they want to do a Play Street as well, but then there's a few neighbors who are really not happy because they want to drive and they want to kind of like be using the street on that day or whatever, then what are the conversations that you're going to have with them, either to kind of, maybe the date is really like not working for them because Saturday is the day they bring their children wherever, so like maybe you do it on the Sunday. So it's kind of like what are the sort of mitigation action that you're taking to appease their concerns as well. You might not always be able to appease everyone, and that's fine. We're not asking you to kind of like have 100% yes to all your idea from all your neighbors, but we need to have a sense of the majority of your neighbors agree with your idea, and if they don't, and for those who don't, then what have you done to bring them on board as well?
Yeah, it might be worth just adding that it could be part of your consultation, sort of the final parts of the questioning. What, if you're not, if you find that they're not on board with what you're saying, what would be what actions can you take to get them on board? So what would they like to see you do so that they kind of come on board with your idea? So it could be like a feedback question at the end of your consultation to say, what do you think of my idea? Is there anything that you think might improve it? Just how you word it to get them start thinking about it and getting them on board. So it's not just about, here's my idea, this is what's going to happen, are you happy with it or not? It's almost like you want to word it in a way where you kind of get them to invest in your idea, to kind of think about your idea and maybe input into your idea as well, so they are happy with it for you to go ahead with it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's kind of include them in that process. Thank you. Okay,
great. And again, like, you can have support from your community neighborhood teams locally if you're feeling like maybe your idea is not something that actually your neighbors really want to see. How can you adjust it as well? They can support you with also just thinking about how you're going to progress from, this was my original idea, I'm not sure that actually people are on board with it, what am I going to do with it? And they might be able to support you to think about alternative ways of things that you could do instead.
Yeah, that's great. I had actually a consultation with Anna at the Beckton Globe Library, and she was a super mega star. Yeah, getting all my ideas in order. So yeah, that was very useful. Thank you.
Just out of interest, what was it you're thinking of doing, Rosa?
Right. So I've got different ideas, but I'm a single parent, and I wanted to bring one of my main projects was to bring the single parent community in Newham together. Now this is proving very difficult because I started already this work contacting schools and organizations, but it's difficult. I've got a WhatsApp group and it's got 30 members, but I find that for the size of Newham, that's very big. So somebody suggested that I reduce that to just concentrate on Beckton. And then I came across the power places and people power places, and somebody suggested maybe you can help, they can help you with this idea to take on. That's one of them. And then there's also about mixing it with linguistic pairing, which is an initiative that we do in Catalonia to help people integrate in society, especially asylum seekers, people who are new to the community, so that to have a sense of belonging and to integrate quickly. One of the best tools is language. So it's combining a few of these ideas together.
Okay. That's very, very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
The person Rosa from who's talking about refugees, she's helping people integrate. It'd be good if she could possibly get in touch with me afterwards, because I'm actually doing a project for Newham and we're looking at refugees and migrants networks. So yeah, she's just said something that's really interesting there. I think it'd be I don't know how to get contact with her, but perhaps I'll give you my email and you can pass it back to her, Rosa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can Rosa direct message to
Yeah,
Alexis?
I can.
think?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually doing a project for Newham, which is Newham Research Network. But I'm just I'm not talking about that here. It just so happens that she said something really interesting, which is what we're looking. So one of the projects we're looking at is to do with refugees. So I've just got one more question before it's closed. And I did have a look at your website, but what I'm interested in is how can you tell what has been agreed for this year? I mean, I looked onto the website, I saw projects, but I didn't see like which projects has been agreed on what date or anything like that. If I look on your Co-Create website, how do I know what's been agreed?
So the projects haven't been agreed yet. So we're in the phase of project application. So you can put forward a project yourself. Unless you're talking about the priorities, is that?
I just want to be just coming out from someone who, say, for example, is a complete layman coming into this idea. Like, where do I find basic information? Like, what projects for this year, 2023? I don't know the end date or the beginning date. I just want to know, like, where do I find them? The ones that you agree, and what date? Or if I can't find those ones, what about last year's ones? Is there somewhere I can find them and just have a look through? I've seen the list of projects. I'm saying what's been agreed for this year, or whatever. That's what I'm looking for.
Nothing's been agreed yet, because applications are still coming in. So once they come in, then they will go through the scoring process and then the voting process. So nothing's been agreed yet. These are all ideas on Newham Co-Create. Sorry?
Is it just for this year? Did this come into play last year as well, this project, or?
Yes, so it was previously known as community assemblies.
Okay.
So they will be under that name. So if you go into Newham Co-Create, go to community assemblies for 2022, 2023, all the previous projects will be on there for you. And you have to go into each area to actually view each of the projects in each area. So you can go to Stratford directly and you can see the projects that are being delivered there or have been delivered there.
Okay, that's brilliant.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the cycle with you again, Alexi, just so it's super clear. So we started at the end of April. We're now in the phase of project application. So people put forward their project ideas, and then we'll do the vote in October, November, where everyone in Newham has a chance to vote for their favorite projects. And then the delivery of those projects will start in January 2024 until December 2024. So people will have 1 year to deliver their projects. So that's when really the projects will be kind of starting to be delivered. So everything will be on Newham Co-Create, so you can follow it. But obviously at the moment people are still kind of working on their applications, so you can't see kind of like many of the different projects popping up, but they will be popping up as soon as those project applications are in, and then you can follow through the different phases what's happening with these projects.
Okay, that's absolutely brilliant. That's giving me an overview of everything that I need to know.
Right. Awesome. Anyone else?
When's your next one, your next event? Is this your last one, or?
So this is the last of our support clinics, but you can still watch the recordings of the support clinics that we've done in the past. So at this stage, until October, November, the best way to kind of find out more, get involved, is get in touch with your community neighborhood team. And then in October, November, we'll organize the voting events. So then that will be a really exciting time to kind of all come together and vote for favorite projects and decide how you're going to spend the 1.6 million across Newham, which hopefully is going to be a really exciting part of the program, really. So
okay, so you gave me a community neighborhood contact, and that's the person that you're talking about. Neighborhood team is the actual person that you gave me before.
Yes,
Stratford, yeah.
so yeah, exactly. So you can find all.
Put in the chat for you, Alex. I think you messaged me directly, and I've messaged you back to say the name, giving the name of your senior officer. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's it. So.
I think that's the last question.
I've got a question. We were told to contact the contact person for our area, and I did. I spoke to the person. She said she's going to send me an email with the application form. I didn't receive anything from her.
Okay.
It was Stratford.
Was it? Okay. I'll just put my email address in the chat if you want to take this forward with me. And
Thank you.
Sorry, typo on there. Don't use that one. Yeah, we can take this forward with you.
And you also said you was going to get back to me on something, but I've not heard back.
What you mean?
The last session that we had, you said you were going to get back to me.
So I don't think I've received an email from you. So I can't.
No, I didn't send you an email. You told me to give you my email and you'll get back to me. It was to do with my book, but I have not heard anything. I was.
Yeah. No, I do remember you. I don't think I had your email address.
I gave it. You told me to give it to you in the chat, in the private chat, and I did.
Okay. I haven't noticed it. So yeah, if you don't mind emailing me, then that'll be better.
That's fine.
Thanks, Ellen. Anyone else?
I couldn't get hold of, couldn't put the link on to Rosa in this chat, so I'm just going to put it here. Just put it in there. That's my email for Rosa, or for the refugees who spoke about the refugees.
Sorry, Alex. I think you're messaging me directly. Should I just put it in there for you?
Yeah, it's for
everyone.
It's for Rosa, the person who spoke about
Alexis.
refugees.
Yeah, I just sent you a message via the private chat. Okay. You should have my email address now.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Should I delete that for you, Alex, or you're happy to keep it there?
Doesn't matter, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Just making this note. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. I think you're free to go. We're 20 minutes early.
Just run through the next steps quickly and then. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Like we discussed earlier, if you need more help, do contact your local team. And on the Newham Co-Create, with all the attachments alongside the application forms, there is another document called contact details. If you open that document, you will see each neighbourhood and the email address for each neighbourhood. And that's one method of contacting a specific neighbourhood as well. So do spread the word, share the opportunity with your neighbours and family and friends. Let as many people as you can know of this opportunity. And we'll be putting in a link in the chat right now for your feedback on how this session went for you, specifically this session. We'll really appreciate if you can spend a couple of minutes just giving us a bit of feedback about this session as well. So yeah, there we go. So there's I don't know if you are on a computer or if you've got your phone, you can take a picture of your screen now, because those are the contact details. Again, these can be found on Newham Co-Create as well. So I know, Alexis, you've got the email now anyway.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. You've given me now everything I need to do. I need because if you think about it from a layman's perspective, I just actually come onto this this meeting, but imagine I don't have any sort of like knowledge. I just need basic questions. So I've asked you some basic questions because that's what community people would do.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you. Right. Is there any other slides on that?
Oh, all good. Yeah, thanks everyone so much for coming. And again, if you have any more questions, get in touch with us. You've got my email now as well. And yeah, we're going to stay a couple more minutes just in case there's any more questions, but otherwise we'll be closing the meeting in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question? I missed the session last week on how to cost your project, and I can't find where that is on the New and Co-Create site. The first two, the residents one and the groups one are up. Because the other one's just not gone up yet, or
I've literally just put it earlier today. Like,
all right, okay, I'll pop back on there and have a look.
I also sent it to all the email addresses who registered on Eventbrite, so maybe it'll be also in your inbox.
Yeah, I forgot to do it because I was just intending to do it at the time, and then I just completely overlooked it at the day. So I'm on catch-up time now, so I have to catch up on it. All right, I'll take a look. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's thank you very much for your help and for the information.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Alexi, have a good evening.
Yeah, and you as well. Take a good evening.
Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
Any more questions from admin?